A message that I have always portrayed here on my YouTube channel is that you should never pay retail. Obviously, there are caveats to everything. There are brands that you should probably pay retail for. Some of those are actually micro brands because they make very limited numbers of their watches. So if you don't buy one, you may not be able to get one. And sometimes they can sell for over list price. Of course, if you can get a Rolex at list price, definitely buy it at retail at the list price if you are in the market for a Rolex, or maybe you just want to flip one. In general, for most Swiss watches, Japanese watch, it really doesn't matter. You should not be buying your watch at retail. You are walking away with a watch that is immediately worth less on the secondary market, and you should always check out the gray market and the secondary market when you're going to buy a watch. Find out what that watch is selling for before you buy it. Today, we're talking about 10 brands, and I've made a video about this specific subject before. These are 10 additional brands that you should never pay retail for. And I'm going to start with my number one pick, which is pretty controversial. So let's get right into it. So right off the bat, I'm going to start with Seiko. Now, I will include Grand Seiko in this, but I'm focusing here on Seiko because Seiko make a lot of watches. And because of that, the sheer numbers of watches that they're making, you will get an absolute discount on the secondary market. There are very few exceptions here. However, like I said before, there are always exceptions to every rule, but a majority of Seikos sell for less money on the secondary market that is new on the gray market. Now, obviously, you will spend a lot less money if you're buying used, but if you are buying on the gray market new, lots of Seikos out there, and there are a lot on the gray market. So if you want something like an LX, which sells for around $6,000, I believe, those are usually selling in the $2,000 to $3,000 range on places like eBay and Chrono24. So that means you're getting almost more than 50% off on their higher end models. If you go to a Seiko 5, obviously, you can get a lot of money off of those as well, sometimes around 50% off on the gray market. So it doesn't matter what level of Seiko you're interested in, always check on the secondary market before you buy anything new. Another brand that saturates the market with their models is Tissot. Tissot have become very popular. They've actually become the go-to brand for lots of new collectors. They've been coming out with some really cool watches, specifically in the PRX line, with some really great materials like titanium and Damascus, and of course their carbon fiber version. These are great watches. However, at the same time, all of their watches, doesn't matter if it's the PRX or any of their other watches, you should always go to the gray market, and you can buy new on the gray market with these watches and get a significant discount. If you go to places like Joma Shop, they have them in stock, and they are usually at least 30% off. That is on the light side. Sometimes you can find them up to 50% off brand new. And then of course, if you go used, you can get a very good model for even more than 50% off. Specifically when we're talking about their most popular model, the PRX, but this goes for all of their models. And I do want to specify here, gray market means different things when you're buying them from different places. So if you're buying on eBay and it's gray market, you may not get a warranty. However, if you do buy on places like Joma Shop, you will get a warranty with that watch. It will be through Joma Shop. It might be a little bit harder to get it serviced. The PRX does use some plastic movement parts, but by the time your warranty is up, they won't break, so you won't be servicing them during that warranty period anyway. They're built to last past that period, so it doesn't really matter if you're buying new or on the gray market. And because of that, you should always look to the gray market first. The next is a trio or 4 different brands that I want to mention. They are all within the Citizen group, and they are all really well priced on the secondary market. Alpina. If you're not familiar with Alpina, definitely check out their watches. They have some pretty cool designs. They are part of the Citizen group, but most of their watches, and if not all of their watches, sell for a very, very significant discount on the secondary market. And I am talking about up to 70% off in certain cases. A lot of their watches get liquidated because they do not sell very well initially. So they'll come out with a model, they will sit on the shelves, and then eventually they will just liquidate them. And when they liquidate them, they go to the gray market and they are being sold for heavy discounts. The next brand is Frederic Constant. They make slightly better watches than Alpina, I will say. But again, those watches don't sell very well. They've been coming out with watches recently that are a little bit nicer, with some nicer complications like moon phases. They also have a perpetual calendar. Those are on the more expensive side, but still you can get them for very good prices on the secondary market. Definitely check those out on the secondary market before you buy anything from Frederic Constant, because they all sell for a discount. The next two brands are under the Citizen umbrella as well. They are higher end manufacturers that are owned by Girard-Perregaux, and Girard-Perregaux make their watches. It's Arnold & Son and Angelus. I've put my money where my mouth is when it comes to these brands because, first off, I think they are amazing. I think their quality is excellent, and I really love the heritage of both brands. So these are actually heritage brands. They have a history, and they made some really cool watches in the past. Right now, they are an excellent bargain on the secondary market because they don't sell very well at retail. And that's basically the same story for all the watches on this list, because they don't usually sell all that well at retail. Usually they are left sitting on the shelves, so they get liquidated and then they are sold to gray market dealers. Angelus in particular, like I was saying, I own an Angelus. That is the U50, a diving tourbillon, which is a beautiful watch that is very expensive, around $50,000, but you can get them for under $20,000 very easily every day. And it does not matter what year it was made in. They're brand new or pretty old. I have an older one. The U50 is older. They came out with, I think, a U53, but it doesn't matter. If you go on places like eBay and Chrono24, their tourbillons sell for around $14,000, especially if you look in the used market. But you can get these watches brand new for around 60% off. These are hot horology watches that just don't get the same love from collectors. So for that reason, they sell for next to nothing, considering on the secondary market. The next brand on this list is Chopard. If you are walking into a Chopard AD or any AD that is selling Chopard and buying one at retail, you have to be out of your mind, because 90% of their watches fall heavily in price right when you walk out of the dealership, just like a car. So these watches sell for a lot of money because Chopard make pretty high-end watches, specifically their LUC, but this is all Chopard. Doesn't matter which ones we're talking about. The Alpine Eagle is a really good example of a watch that falls pretty hard on the secondary market. You can get these for up to 50% off retail immediately. And these are not old watches. They've been around for a while. If you want one of their older watches, you're gonna have to go to the used market, but you can get a micro rotor for around $2,000 to $3,000 in a Chopard. It's an LUC, a beautiful movement that has been celebrated for many years. It's incredible that you can get these watches for such a good price. Chopard originally wanted to make LUC a competitor to the likes of Patek Philippe, and they still do, but they don't have the same brand recognition, name recognition. So because of that, they make the watches, they don't sell, and then they liquidate them. Or if they do sell, you can never get your money back on those sales. And when you go to sell your watch, you're offered nothing for it. So they end up on the used market for dirt cheap. The next brand on this list is a brand that I have spoken about many times here on my channel, and I love. It's Zenith. Zenith make a lot of watches. And because of that, again, like these other brands that we were talking about here, they have a problem selling those at retail. And sometimes they offer a discount even at retail. You can go in and negotiate on a Zenith and get a better price. That doesn't happen with a lot of brands. However, When those watches don't sell, they go to the secondary market. If you want to get something that is not an El Primero, most of those get liquidated because a lot of people, when they go to buy a Zenith, the most popular watch is their El Primero, anything that has the El Primero movement inside. Now those do sell for a very good discount, sometimes up to 50% off. Like the Elite and every other model lineup that is not an El Primero sell for incredible prices. They even made a tourbillon version of the El Primero. That watch sells for around $14,000 to $20,000. It's a Swiss-made tourbillon from a major brand like Zenith, and they sell for under $20,000. A watch that would normally retail for around $80,000. Pretty incredible. That's on the higher end, but you can go on the lower end of their models. A solid gold Elite sells for around $3,000 to $5,000. That is a pretty incredible price for a watch like that. And they get great movements. The Elite movements are excellent. They are completely underrated. But again, because they don't sell at retail, they sell excellent on the gray market. So we're coming to the end of this list. If you have found this list helpful, useful, entertaining, anything, hit that like button. Don't forget to like and subscribe, all that stuff. I really do appreciate it. And we're gonna carry on. So Breguet is the next brand on this list. Breguet is a historic brand. They make some very high-end watches, again, like most of the brands on this list, but on the secondary market, they lose so much value. A really good example of this is the Breguet 3700, a watch that I have had my eye on for a very long time. If you go on their website right now and you want to buy their World Timer in gold, I think it's around $80,000. These watches, the 3700, is their World Timer. It's in gold, and they sell for around $10,000. That is a solid gold Breguet that sells for $10,000. It is a complication, and it's very good looking. If that was a Patek Philippe, it would be selling for $30,000+. Is there a quality difference between the two? Definitely not. And the fact is that Breguet just doesn't have the resale value. And for some reason, they do have the name recognition, maybe not as well known as brands like Patek Philippe or Rolex, but they still do have a very good brand recognition, specifically with collectors, but somehow, some way, they don't sell very well, and they sell amazing on the secondary market. The last two watches on this list are two very high-end brands, and these are brands that you should never buy at retail because they tank on the secondary market, and they make some incredible watches. Girard-Perregaux. If you buy a Girard-Perregaux at retail, you are crazy. Girard-Perregaux lose almost all of their value immediately on the secondary market. So a used version or even a gray market version are a fraction of the price of a retail Girard-Perregaux. The Laureato, very popular watch and a competitor. A lot of people see it as a competitor to brands like AP and the Royal Oak and of course the Offshore from Vacheron. These are really nicely made watches. They make skeletonized versions. They make all different materials. You will find these on the secondary market, a chronograph version with a carbon fiber case for around $7,000 to $10,000. If that said AP on the dial, it would be a $30,000 watch. But it's not. It's actually a Girard-Perregaux, and the original retail was probably in the neighborhood of $30,000. But because they don't sell well on the secondary market, they go for $7,000. Amazing watches at an amazing price. And speaking about amazing watches, Parmigiani, one of my favorite brands, and a brand that I want to own, specifically their Rattrapant GMT or the Rattrapant Minutes. These are such amazing watches that sell for around $20,000 on the secondary market. Now that seems like a lot of money, but it's really not, considering the original MSRP was in the neighborhood of around $40,000. They're stainless steel, but they get platinum bezels. Beautiful watches that are 50% off. And they have some of the highest quality that you will find on any integrated bracelet sports watch. They're amazing, they're beautiful, and they are very heavily discounted when used or on the secondary market. So Parmigiani, another brand that you should never buy retail. It's kind of sad, but that's the way it is. Anyway, guys, that's really it. That's my video. Tell me what you think of the brands that I mentioned here in this video down in the comments section. If there are brands that you would add to this list, whether it's affordable or high-end, I want to hear from you guys. Tell me what brands you would add to this list, because I'm going to make a part 3 of this and a part 4 and a part 5, basically listing all of the brands that sell for really good prices on the gray market and the used market. So that's really it, guys. Thank you for logging on. Thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. It is super helpful for the channel, and I very much appreciate it. That's really it, guys. Thank you for logging on. I will catch you guys in the next video.